Hi everybody, this is ML Reads with Chapter 8, Part A of the Elementalists Book 1 by Pixelberry Studios Choices app. If you want to watch any of the other videos in this series, I will link the main playlist in the description. And for the rest of us, let's go ahead and play Chapter 8, Night Magic. Study hard, play hard. The December solstice is here and a party awaits. Continue playing. Welcome to Chapter 8. Here is the Elementalists. And here we have Chapter 8, Night Magic. Okay, so previously on the Elementalists, I think the main takeaway from last chapter was that there is blood magic involved in the events surrounding Eli. What else? Professor Swan knows about what's going on, more or less. She knows about the shadow monsters, but we don't know if we can trust her. And Eli officially has a friendship group. So that is Eli, Shreya, Beckett, Griffin, and Zeph. And we are called the Pen Pals. Let's continue. You and your friends scour the library for weeks, but find nothing on the shadow monsters. What's more, you haven't seen your reflection again. On the bright side, you've completed Spellwork 1A and are ready to start your specialised Sun-Att training with Professor Swan. You trek up to the domed building above the main grounds, groaning as you quickly run out of breath. Eli's like, unfit. Eli, I should have just given myself those extra 5 minutes in bed. Why am I so exhausted today? Footsteps echo up the steps behind you. You turn to see Professor Swan taking the stairs 2 at a time, waving one hand exaggeratedly. Professor Swan, sorry Eli, you know how it is. 1 minute you're watching the clock, the next a swarm of bubble bugs has floated through your window. Eli, right, that is so relatable. You and Professor Swan reach the building, and she does a complicated hand gesture in front of the door. It glides open silently. Professor Swan, after you, Eli? This room is all yours after all? Ooh, and it's showing us the Sun-Att training room, which is this big open dome type of area with this sparkling crystal in the center of the room, and it's throwing refracted sunlight all around. There are on the roof a sun and moon and stars motif, and yeah, it looks like there's just a lot of bright sunlight coming in through here. So you step inside and immediately shield your eyes from the sunlight flooding the room, bathing everything in the clearest, brightest light. Professor Swan, the smell of the morning sun is so invigorating, don't you think? Eli, I'd be more invigorated by the smell of coffee, if you have some. Me too, Eli. Professor Swan, I'm more of a tea person myself. Now, I have a question for you before we begin. I'd appreciate your honesty. With regards to these mysterious creatures that have been attacking you, have you stayed out of trouble and kept your head down? You think back on the endless research you and your friends have been doing in the library and consider telling Professor Swan the truth. Eli, have I kept my head down? And the options are, of course I have. Or honestly, not entirely. Let's be honest. Honestly, not entirely. Swan gives you a panicked look. Professor Swan, Eli, what's happened? Are you okay? Have you sustained any injuries? Eli, I'm fine. I haven't gone looking for any more monsters. I've just been looking for more information on them in the library. I don't think the librarians noticed. Professor Swan sighs. Professor Swan, I appreciate your honesty, Eli, though I worry that you're drawing unnecessary attention to the subject of your research. But we'll continue that conversation later. No use dwelling on gloomy thoughts when we're surrounded by so much sun. She puts her hands on her hips and addresses you seriously. Professor Swan, now, you and I are here today because each attune's attunements lends them special abilities. Being a Sun-Att predisposes you toward prescience, which means that you innately have a certain degree of foresight about what's to come. Eli, I can tell the future? Professor Swan, no, not exactly. Prescience is more of having a feeling that something is going to happen. A gut feeling, if you will. Eli, so you're saying I can gut feel the future? Professor Swan gives a little shrug, lips quirking up in a smile. Professor Swan, it's a muddy science, but fascinating. The degree of prescience attainable by each Sun-At depends on your latent potential, of course. Eli, well, I've got some good news for you. According to Professor Kontos, I've got an ale tankard's worth of magical potential. Professor Swan claps her hands together in excitement. Professor Swan, wonderful! I've never trained a Sun-At before. I can't wait to see how powerful you are, and prescience is the perfect place to start. She takes a breath to calm herself before explaining in a little more detail. Professor Swan, think of the sun as a marker of time passing. The day progresses as the sun moves through the sky. So tapping into your sun abilities will give you a feeling for the future. But with practice, patience, and power, of course, you may be able to get so much more than just a gut feeling. Eli, okay then, and then the options are, how long does it take to develop prescience? Or you're saying I could get visions? Or do you have prescience? How long does it take to develop prescience? Professor Swan, well, Sun-Ats are so rare, there's no real established time frame for how long prescience takes to develop. I suppose a powerful Sun-At could conceivably learn prescience in a matter of days. Eli, a matter of days? How long did it take you? Professor Swan, 3 years. Eli, what? Professor Swan, but Eli, you have an ale tankard, remember? And I think you'll progress much quicker than I did. Now, the very first step in developing your prescience is strengthening your connection with the sun. I find meditation to be quite helpful. Just close your eyes and feel the sun's warmth sink into you, then work on merging your energy with it. Why don't you take a seat and try? You sit on the floor with your legs crossed and close your eyes. The glare of the room shines through your eyelids. Professor Swan, now, focus inwards. If you're aware of sounds, sensations, anything outside of you, don't let them distract you. Eli, I should breathe. Sorry, it's a timed choice. You take in a long, slow breath, focusing on the tint of the backs of your eyelids and the cool feeling of the air entering your nostrils. Eli, this is actually kind of nice. A pleasant heat fills your chest, like you've been running, only you don't feel tired or winded. Professor Swan, Eli, look out! It's storming! The wind from Professor Swan's spell buffets you, making you flinch. Eli, I have to stay centered. I need to refocus. You let the wind blow itself out, imagining yourself as a fire that it's stoking. When the gale has passed, you feel warmer than before. Eli, yes! Professor Swan's voice filters into your consciousness as a faint whisper. Professor Swan, impressive, very impressive. With a smile to yourself, you tune out her voice, her presence. It's like you're floating in nothingness, wrapped up in a warm blanket, safe and sound. But suddenly, bright bursts of light filter through your eyelids as though the crystal in the center of the room is pulsing. And it's like the screen is like going white. You feel the light hanging around you, like it's trying to force itself through your skin and overpower you. Eli, I can do this! I need to absorb the light. You welcome the sunlight on your skin, feel it sinking in and warming you further, and feel a responding light start glowing deep inside you. Eli, oh, I think I have it. Your ears rush and a tingle runs down your arms and legs. And then the screen's gone white. Professor Swan, oh my. Your eyes shoot open and for a moment you can't see anything. Eli, holy, I'm glowing. You lose your focus and the prickly feeling recedes, taking the glow with it. For a moment, dread swirls in your gut, but it disappears so quickly you wonder if you imagined it. Eli, was that supposed to happen? Professor Swan nods, mouth hanging open. Professor Swan, I never expected. Not on your very first try. Eli, you just connected profoundly with the power of the sun. This is beyond anything I imagined. Eli, I felt so warm. I think I'm going to really like prescience. Glow up. You aced your first attempt at prescience. After practicing for a little while longer, Professor Swan checks her watch. Professor Swan, thank you, Eli. That's enough. We can finish up for today. You get to your feet with a groan, stretching out your stiff limbs. Professor Swan, I sense much potential in you, but remember, anybody who gets anywhere in life puts in that extra bit of work. Eli, you're giving me homework, aren't you? Professor Swan, think of it as independent study, and think of how future Eli, who has full mastery of her prescience, will thank you. I'd like for you to continue your meditation regularly. Begin by trying to foretell simple things, like what you're going to eat for an upcoming meal. Is it weird that I want to try this in real life? You think about your reflection and how your prescience might help you learn more about her. Professor Swan tilts her head while you remain silent for a while. Professor Swan, Eli, is there more you haven't told me? You don't have to face things alone. She smiles warmly at you, and you realize without any doubt that you trust her to help you. Eli, Professor, there's more going on than just those shadow creatures. You tell Professor Swan about your reflection's appearances so far. Her eyes go wide. Professor Swan, oh my, oh my, I should, oh my goodness, oh dear. She rushes out of the room, leaving you alone in the brilliant sunlight. It's random. Eli, see you later, Professor. Well, if she's got that covered, I guess I could meditate some more, see if I can learn something about my reflection or those shadows. Tutorial. Now's your chance to hone your prescience, which will give you a clue about your mysterious foes and unlock a bonus scene later in the chapter. Eli, so this is a premium choice. Now, the free choice is leave, and the premium choice is stay and practice. So we are going to stay and practice. You sit back down in the center of the room and release a long, even breath. Your heartbeat slows, and the heat of the sun makes your head heavy. Eli, I wonder if this is working? Sunlight brushes against your face, settling gently against your eyelids, coating your skin in a soft warmth. You breathe in and start to feel an ember of pure heat and light in your core. It fades as you exhale and glows again, stronger, on your next inhale. Eli, this feels right. Your arms and legs erupt into goosebumps as tingles run through your body. Your ears rush, leaving you momentarily lightheaded. Eli, And then, the screen's gone white again. Suddenly, you're pulsing with light. Eli, I think it's working. I need to foretell something, quick. And then the options are, what does my reflection want from me? Or why are the shadow creatures chasing me? Let's go, what does my reflection want from me? You're hit with vertigo, and you try to throw out your arms to balance yourself, but you can't move. Images start flashing before your eyes. Oh, and the picture's going really fast. Okay, so I think there was the Pendergast grounds, there was the Pendergast main foyer, there was the Hall of Mirrors, there was the hallway where you got attacked by monsters, and then now you're back here. As quick as it comes, the vision fades. Eli, I think that was real prescience. I foretold something. But what the hell did all that mean? You hear the faint chime of the bell tower and realize that it's lunchtime. Your stomach lets out a monstrous gurgle, and you realize how exhausted you suddenly feel. Eli, that took a lot out of me. Food first, understanding these visions second. You get to your feet and leave the Sun-Att practice room, closing the door against the vibrant rays of sunshine. A few days later, you meet your Spellwork 1B class in the woods for a practical lesson after thief practice. You sidle up to Beckett. Eli, hey Beckett, have you found anything else out in the library recently? Beckett, Eli, we've scoured every book, some of them twice, some of them thrice. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the library might not help us. Before you can reply, Professor England addresses the class from in front of a thick tree trunk. Professor England, welcome class. I'm sure you're all wondering what we're doing out in the woods. Today's lesson involves using wood magic to create resin. Can anyone tell me some qualities of resin in magic? Beckett, resin not only has healing and protective qualities, but can be manipulated by almost every element, so it's extremely versatile. Professor England, correct. And because wood magic is fairly tricky, today's lesson is also a companion magic lesson. You'll practice melding your magic with another's. One of you will channel the wood component of this spell, while the other channels water. Professor England touches his index and middle fingers together at chest level. Professor England, when performed alone, this stance can help meld wood, the element of natural life, with water, that which nurtures natural life. Sense the sap in the tree, then channel your magic into it. Use water to thicken the sap under the bark and wood to channel it to the surface, and then say, Rathina. He slowly separates his fingers. Between them stretches a viscous rope of amber, which he fashions into a crystalline shield with a flourish. Professor England. Medicinal to decorative, defensive to offensive. Resin is an extremely valuable substance to have magical mastery over. Now, select your partners and get to work. Feel free to practice with your familiars if you'd like. Ooh, and so then we have a choice. We can either do the spell with Beckett or we can work with Butterball. Ooh, both of them would be good options. I'll work with Beckett. Beckett, oh, okay. And he looks kind of sad. Eli, do you not want to work with me? Beckett, it isn't that. It's just, I have a fair bit of difficulty with wood as it is metal's counterpart. Please don't laugh. Eli, Beckett, I'm not going to laugh just because wood magic is hard for you. Beckett looks around frantically, waving his hands at you. Beckett, Eli, please, keep it down. I have a reputation to uphold. Eli, really? And then the options are, so the great Beckett isn't good at everything, or that's nothing to be embarrassed about, or you're cute when you're flustered. Let's go, that's nothing to be embarrassed about. You're supposed to have trouble with the element opposite yours. You're literally embarrassed about being normal. Beckett, but I'm not meant to be normal, Eli. Beckett crosses his arms and mumbles under his breath. Beckett, I'm meant to be extraordinary. Professor England, less chatting in that corner, please, Eli and Beckett. Focus on finding each other's magical energy. Eli, I'll do my best with wood and you take water. Sound good, Beckett? Beckett, very well. Let us attempt this, at least. You extend your awareness toward Beckett, trying to sense his magical aura. Slowly, you start to feel a sensation in the air, steely but pliable. Beckett's face is scrunched up in focus, but suddenly his eyes meet yours and widen. Beckett, I can feel it! Your energy is so warm. Eli, and yours has a distinct metallic edge. Now, let's get some resin out of this tree. You both turn to the tree beside you. As you work your wood magic into it, you feel Beckett's water magic melding further with yours. Eli, I have to, and then the options are find the resin or sense the sap. We have to sense the sap. With your magic deep in the tree, you begin to sense the sap spreading through all parts of it, from the trunk to the tips of the branches. Beckett, it's like I can feel the tree's life force, as though the sap is blood flowing through its veins. Can you feel that, Eli? Eli, we're definitely doing this right. Next is just making the actual resin. Beckett, very well. I'm using my water to thicken the sap. It's up to you to complete the spell with wood magic. As you twine more of your magic with the sap, feeling it become more viscous and easier to handle, Professor England passes by. Professor England, looking good, you two. Now you just have to bring it to the tree's surface. He must be like, at least they're not throwing fireballs at each other anymore. Eli, I have to use wood too, and the choice is channel the resin or crystallize the resin. We have to channel the resin. You're able to direct the thick sap through the bark. An amber-coloured bubble emerges from a crack in the trunk and pops. Professor England, wonderful work. One more step left. With the forces of wood and water held together, you let out a breath and utter the incantation. Beckett, Rathina. Eli, Rathina. I tried to make their voices different, but anyway. A fine trickle of sap dribbles through a crack in the bark and starts to drip down the trunk, crystallizing on the way down. Professor England, fantastic work, you two. You're the first to have succeeded. You turn toward Beckett and raise your hand for a high five. Don't leave me hanging, Beckett, come on. Eli, I can't believe how easy that was. Our magical energies are totally compatible. After a moment's hesitation, Beckett gently presses his palms to yours. Yes. Beckett, companion magic sure is something. That must be the quickest spell I've ever learnt. That must be the quickest I've ever learnt to spell. Your vision suddenly goes hazy and you sway on the spot, catching yourself on a nearby tree, and the background is fuzzy and out of focus. Eli, ah! Beckett, Eli, what just happened? Eli, and then the screen's normal again? I don't know. I feel fine now. Beckett, it must have been rebound from casting such an advanced spell. I used to suffer dizzy spells when I was still a novice. Don't worry, the more you practice, the less you'll be affected by performing high-level magic. Eli, right, I sure hope so. Spell learned. You can now use the resin spell. So we're back in our room. You're doing homework later that evening, practicing the resin spell with Butterball while facing your wooden desk. Eli combined the wood with the water. You link your fingers the way Professor Englund showed. Butterball's expression tightens as he tries to help you focus your magic. Butterball, and he's like focusing on the spell. Yay, Butterball, you're so cute. Eli, okay, I think I've combined them. I just have to say the incantation. What is the incantation? And it is Rethina. Eli, Rethina. You pull your fingers apart, revealing a thread-like tendril of resin between them. Eli, yes! Butterball, we've got it! A wave of dizziness washes over you, and the resin turns to water, which falls to the floor. Eli, not this again. Your bedroom door bursts open, making Butterball jump. Shreya hurries inside, a shopping bag dangling from her arm. Shreya, clear out your schedule for tonight, Eli. We've got a date with the deep, dark forest, and we can't miss it. Eli, come again? But like, calmer this time. Shreya grins at you, a wild gleam in her eyes. Shreya, I was just in Penn Square where I ran into Griffin, who told me about the rave in the woods tonight to celebrate the December solstice. It's super exclusive, as in underclassmen aren't invited. But if we can find the rave on our own, we can get in like he did last year. Eli, you want to trample through the forest in the middle of the night for a rave we might not even find? Shreya, what's with that glass half-empty outlook? Zeph's already on board, and I waylaid Smarty Pants outside the library and got him to promise to come along too. I love how Shreya just accepts Beckett now. Eli, in that case, we'll find it for sure, and a party sounds fun after all the studying I've been doing. With a delighted squeal, Shreya hefts the shopping bag onto your desk and begins digging through it. Shreya, inspired as I was, I made a pit stop at Maison to you and found you the perfect look for tonight. She pulls out a gleaming outfit, the fabric shifting through her hands as though it's made of starlight. Shreya, you'll be the talk of the entire school in this. Ooh, okay, and so we have a premium outfit, which is super cute. But we are going to take a break right here before we move on with the rest of the story. If you are enjoying this video and this series, please consider giving it a like. I would just appreciate it, and it helps me know that, you guys are watching and enjoying it as well. And yeah, I will see you all again next time. Well, not next time. I will see you all again very soon for part B. See you then.